Eggs are the symbol of spring. They represent fertility and birth and new energy, and they're used in a lot of the celebrations like Passover and Easter during this time of year. But do you ever wonder what kinds of eggs you should be buying, or maybe should you be eating eggs at all? We're going to answer all of these questions in today's episode.
So there's so many labels out there, it gets so confusing. So we're going to really simplify things and tell you to focus on one thing. You want your eggs to be pasture raised. So this is telling you that the chickens are out in pasture eating what they normally eat. So the cows are going to graze in a field, and then they move the cows into the next pasture, and when their manure is there, the chickens come and eat out and peck out all the little grubs and worms that are growing and fertilizing in there. This is going to help fertilize the field and feed the chicken a high protein diet. So let's learn from this. Chickens are not vegetarians. So when your eggs say vegetarian fed, like it's a good thing, it's not. We don't want vegetarian fed eggs. So the best thing you can do, because sometimes we don't trust our labels, and fair enough, is go to the farmer's market and get to know your egg farmer, your chicken farmer, and ask them about their practices. And when they ask you for $6 to $8 for their dozen of eggs, don't be shocked, because this dozen of eggs can feed 6 to 12 people. And so that's a really low cost meal. And think about how many times you've dropped over $5 for a sugary coffee drink that has no nutrition at all. So don't sweat the cost on that.
And we talk all the time about the seasons and how that affects our different foods in those seasons. Eggs have a season too, and the beginning of egg season is the spring, and it moves into the summer and starts to end in the fall, because during the winter, as the sun is setting and there's not as much daylight, the chickens and the hens don't produce as many eggs, and they go kind of dormant, because what they're doing, just like we did during the winter, is they're resting and restoring so that they'll have the energy for the rest of the year to produce these eggs. And these eggs, just like we were talking about with seeds, they create all life. So there's a ton of life force energy in these eggs. The only difference is that this is more for the animal kingdom. So these eggs have the energy to produce organs and blood and other things that make up our bodies, which is incredible.
So incredible.
And that synergy is so great for us. So do a favor for yourself and for the hens, and give yourself a break from eggs, especially during the winter. But then you can bring them back in for the spring.
And when you do eat your egg, eat the whole egg, both the white and the yolk. So this is another thing. We were focusing on the protein in the whites and cutting out the fats from the yolks, but no, we want the whole thing. There's just as much protein in the yolk as there is in the whites, and all the omega-3s and the fats in the yolk are going to help to absorb and digest that protein that's in the whites. And also it's packed with things like folate, which is great for fertility, and it's packed with vitamin D, which is really hard to get from food, but it comes from that yolk, which happens to look like a sun. And if you put two together, it looks like a bunch of googly eyes looking at you, and that's telling you that it's actually good for your eyes as well. So eat both the white and the yolk and enjoy it.
And a lot of people have been avoiding eggs because they're scared of cholesterol, but just like we know fat doesn't make you fat, eating cholesterol foods do not give you cholesterol. Cholesterol comes from sugar, fried foods, and stress. So if those are part of your life, that's where your bad high cholesterol is coming from. And cholesterol is produced by the liver. So we've talked about the liver a lot this spring because this is such an important organ. If we keep giving ourselves these toxic things, the liver is going to get congested. And the liver produces cholesterol. It's kind of like a little padding, a little cushion, right? It softens things up. But again, when it's really stressed and congested, it's going to produce a lot more. And the more cholesterol, the more they're going to convert over to the toxic LDL. So what we want to do instead of cutting out eggs is we want to address the root cause. And because this cholesterol is being produced, sure, that's an indicator that something's wrong, but that doesn't mean we should just pop a pill and get that cholesterol down in terms of numbers. That would be like taking a scab off because you go, oh, the scab indicates there's a problem. I'm going to remove the scab and everything's going to be okay. no, we know that's going to be vulnerable and you're not going to be able to heal. The same thing is happening. So instead, address the root cause of your cholesterol and bring in these beautiful eggs into your diet.
That's some big information. And so there are so many great ways to eat eggs. We all know our favorite breakfast dishes, but think about using eggs as dinner in the spring. It's a really nice dinner using spring vegetables like asparagus and leafy greens, nice little side salad. You can make an omelet, you can make a quiche or a frittata. And today we made something a little different. It's called shakshuka, and it originates from North Africa and the Middle East. And we put a little Tex-Mex spin on it. It's really delicious. You make the sauce with all sorts of vegetables, crack the eggs in there and bake it, have it with some tortillas. Delish.
Yeah, well, that sounds simple enough.
Because it's simply seasonal. So you can just forget all those other labels. Don't even worry about it. We're gonna simplify it for you. Just focus on pasture raised. Chickens are not vegetarian. Vegetarian fed, that's actually not a good thing. Go to the farmer's market and get to know your egg farmer and your chicken farmer and know that they're doing it right. Bodhi, are you cleaning up?